Oh, yeah. It's above the break. Instant reaction. Last night, the Boston Celtics beat the Philadelphia 76ers in game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals to punch their ticket to the Eastern Conference finals for the second consecutive season, to play the Miami Heat, to prove that the NBA bubble wasn't some farce of a basketball tournament. And the losers, the Philadelphia 76ers, with the league's MVP, with the man that they call the beard, James Harden, go home. Our instant reaction: where do the Sixers go next? This is Nevin Brown. I'm joined by,
James Piercy.
okay, James. You know James Harden really well. There's an entire forum of all the Jameses in America, is what I understand. Uh, Jokes aside, what do Sixers do next? Because they have a lot of questions coming up. Harden's got a player option. Doc Rivers is the coach potentially for, I mean, he literally might be getting fired in an office as we record this.
As we speak. Yeah.
Yes. So where do they go next? Because they're kind of maxed out with this roster.
Yeah. So I mean, okay, so I think first and foremost, they need to make overtures to James Harden to stay because they are really low on draft capital, right? They only really have one like young player that's gonna hold like a special trade value, particular trade value in Tyrese Maxey, obviously. We'll get into that in a second. But the thing is if they lose Harden, then trading Maxey doesn't really become a viable avenue towards improving because it's like, who are you gonna get that's so much better than Maxey? And you've lost Harden, right? So if you flip Maxey for like Bradley Beal or Zach LaVine, you're a vastly inferior team next year. You're on a serious downward trajectory, and I think that's a Joel Embiid trade request waiting to happen personally. So I think to avoid like an outright implosion, they need to retain James Harden, or else there's a domino effect where probably everything falls apart, right?
Yeah. So I think in the aftermath of blowing a 3-2 series lead, um, you got to get rid of Doc Rivers. I think
Yeah,
that is actually step one, because if
yeah,
there's one coach you want to bet on blowing a series where they get to 3 wins first, it's a Doc Rivers led team, and the receipts will back that one up. I've never been a huge fan of his, mainly because of that. It's like he's coached some of the most talented rosters for a really, really, really long time now, and he's gotten one championship, gotten to one finals, and that was when he had KG, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce. Three surefire Hall of Famers, still in their primes. KG, one of the most underrated players of his era. Ray Allen, also another very underrated offensive player, routinely on teams with top 5 offensive rankings. I don't think there's a surprise as to why. Get rid of him. And I think you're right. Step 2 is do everything it takes to keep James Harden, because as you said, you're not upgrading that. James Harden led the Sixers in points plus points generated from assists per game this season. Per game, not total, per game, right? Like, their offense is basically just as affected by Joel Embiid being on the court as it is James Harden. I know I told you that earlier, but for the listeners, when they're both on the court, a 123 offensive rating. When Embiid's on the court with or without Harden, 121. When Harden's on the court with or without Embiid, 121. Both of those drop to 115 when they're not on the court. With Embiid on the court, no James Harden, the number came in at 117.81. With Harden on the court, no Joel, 117.55. We're talking about big time players. So you're absolutely right there. But James, what about on the margins? Because I think the two
yeah.
big the two big ones are going to be, we got to keep James Harden, and we got to find a new coach. But after that, what are some avenues that they can explore to upgrade? Because realistically, They lost to the Celtics, who had the best net rating in the NBA. They probably were the best team in the NBA all season. I know they didn't get the most wins, but part of that was like they had 11 overtime games and went 4-7. If they went 7-4, they have the best record, right? In the league. So lost to the best team, pushed them to 7 games. Like realistically, the panic I think is a little bit overstated. But what are the marginal upgrades they can make to get past the Celtics, who don't look like they're going to drop off at all next season?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one thing that they need to do is effectively replace PJ Tucker. I think Tucker's time as a like serious playoff rotation guy is probably over. He's quite old. There's no shame in that, you know. He's just very old. So there's a name that I like a lot for the Sixers, man. I think they should really pursue this player if they can get him, and it's Royce O'Neal of the Brooklyn Nets. Let me tell you, the Nets have a surplus of 3-and-D wings, right? Like Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Royce O'Neal. They don't need them all. They're not even going to be able to pay them all. Realistically, Nick Claxton's coming up on a contract extension soon too. They've got Simmons on the books. Unfortunately, that's unlikely to change. So I wouldn't be surprised if they look to move O'Neal. I think Furkan Korkmaz and like 3 second-round picks can get it done. And now you got Royce O'Neal. So he replaces Tucker in the rotation. And then to me, you have options. You could trade Tobias Harris along with Maxey for like a star player, right? Because the team is probably trading for Maxey and Harris's expiring contract. And in the meantime, Tobias Harris is still a very useful player. So, you know, a number of teams can be interested there. Or you could just roll with what you have, but with Royce O'Neal, man, because you know, like PJ Tucker sucking was an underrated component of this run. I think like he's just not what he used to be, and that makes them down one rotation player, and they're not exactly deep in the first place. So that I thought that was a problem.
You say all these things, but PJ Tucker had 11 first quarter points in game 7. So
Yeah, he
joke's
did. Yeah,
on you.
yeah, that was weird. That
um,
was weird.
yeah, no. Well, I mean, talk about to lose by like 30 points when PJ Tucker gives you 11 points in a quarter. That has honestly someone that's better at using stat head than us needs to go look that one up. They need to go find out how many times has PJ Tucker scored 11 or 10 plus points in a quarter and his team has lost. Because I would be willing to bet that was the first loss where that's ever happened. Because it might have been the first game where that's ever happened, if we're going to be completely honest. They got an all time PJ Tucker offensive performance and lost. Um,
Yeah.
I like the Royce O'Neal thing. You know who would be a perfect replacement for PJ Tucker? Grant Williams. I don't think they can pay him,
No, probably
but
not.
stylistically, he gives you a lot of what PJ Tucker gives you, but he's not quite as good a defender, not quite as tough a defender, I think. But I think he's more mobile. He's a better shooter. He can handle the ball a bit more. And if he were to go to Philly, I think he would have vengeance in his eyes and hate in his heart, because I feel like this season, the way he was used in Boston, which was sparingly for many parts of the season, I think would be a big motivation for him. Can they? You do the fake trades. You're the fake trade guy. Can they realistically make a play at a big time player with Maxi and Tobias Harris? Because if you're entering a rebuild, what do you want? You want financial flexibility and good young players. You get Tobias Harris on that expiring deal, that's financial flexibility. You get
Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey, that's a good young player. I don't know if they have any picks that they can really throw in there
They're
easily.
very light. I think they could trade their 2029 first rounder, I think, without breaking Stepien rule. But I
Well,
mean, then they're dry.
so the question is this is doing is there a player that you think is a difference maker over those two guys,
See,
right?
that's what's really tricky, right? Because yeah, Maxi's already like
Good.
20 very efficient points per game. So it is a little difficult. Like you could talk yourself into like they'd probably be better with like Bradley Beal, but like how much better at the end of the day? How like functionally, what will he do that Maxi's not doing, you know?
He gives you more size. which is,
Yeah,
I think, important. He is
yeah,
better than Tyrese Maxey. Now, he doesn't offer
he
you that
is.
kind of that he's more of what they have in the like slow down, grinded out players, but he is more capable of in a half court setting, them tossing him the ball and having him create. And as much as I think Maxey's good, some of Maxey's efficiency is feeding off of the fact he plays next to maybe the best passer in the league or one of the five best passers in the league and maybe the best scorer in the league, right? Like, and I think Beal can basically give you Maxey's production, but he can do it on the Wizards where he's not surrounded by that. So, like, imagine if he's next to Embiid, next to Harden, where his efficiency could go because Bradley Beal was next to John Wall was like a 40 plus 3-point shooter. He hasn't been there because he's doing much more off the dribble 3-point creation. But I think Beal would be a massive upgrade. Now, the thing is, if you get beat, I don't even know if the finances work out, but if there's one team in the NBA that doesn't want to think about the future and would take Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey for Bradley Beal, I think it would be the Wizards thinking, we're not going to really bottom out. We let Kuzma walk. We replace him with Tobias Harris. We re-sign Porzingis. We bring in Tyrese Maxey. Like, I think they're one
No,
of
it's
the
the same
few.
team.
Yeah, I think they're one of the few teams that would like look at that and be like, yeah, let's do that. Let's
That's
do
another
that
35
trade.
win season, but the off guard's 5 years younger this time. So
Hey,
there's something
man,
to that. There is something to that.
look, I like the Beal one. I think I once again I don't, but Beal's got that no trade clause, so I actually think you're right. I think Bradley Beal is who the Sixers. I think he's their best bet because he's the exact type of star that would upgrade this team. They don't need the A1, right? The Knicks need the A1. They need the Damian Lillard type. Sixers, they got A1. They got Embiid. They got their second piece in James Harden. And then you throw in Beal, who's probably the third best player out of that mix, but he's not that far off of James Harden. I mean, how good of an offense would that be?
Pretty good. Let's send it home, buddy.
All right. Philadelphia 76ers. Your fans are disappointed. The process has been a failure. You've never made the Eastern Conference Finals with Joel Embiid. You guys suck. But at the same time, I think in the aftermath of that colossal, pathetic Game 7 performance, fumbling a 3-2 series lead, if you take a step back and look at the season they had, they were really good. And they lost to the best team in the NBA in the playoffs in 7 games. That's not a bad season.
Yeah, no,
They're very, very, very close. And I think they could realistically win the championship with the same roster next season, right? Like, I think that could happen. So
just need Royce O'Neal.
just need Royce O'Neal and Bradley Beal, and you guys got yourself, you guys got everything that you need. All right. This is an above the break instant reaction. Remember to push that subscribe button here on the YouTubes. If you saw us on Twitter, also follow us on Twitter. We also have a Substack, so check out our Substack where we have written content. James, tell the people where they can find you.
James Piercy 11 on Twitter. Find me at the Dream Shake, writing about the Rockets. I guess tomorrow I will have lots to write about.
You will. Oh, are we gonna have to do an instant reaction to the draft lottery?
Yeah, probably.
If you have the time, can we record you watching the draft lottery unfold and get the actual off the cuff in the moment, like documentary style version of you seeing your life get substantially better or
Or worse.
worse?
The thing is, I don't know if I can stream it because I don't have cable television at my apartment. I'd be streaming it on my laptop, and my laptop is kind of on the fritz. So we'll think about it. We'll think about it.
I'm thinking yes. If we can, if we have the technology to pull off such a maneuver, this needs to be done. All right. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Peace.